stream. The stream has begun. No Saturday night music on account of YouTube's crazy VOD problems. So we're just going live with what we got. We gotta pop out the YouTube chat. Set the live reactions off in slow mode to 10. Got each other, but that's enough to set the game. To Minecraft. Whoa, we're clicking things. Whoa, like Sonic getting rings. Add to playlist Moby Dick Weekly. La da 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 dee da 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 dee. Okay. Welcome, Jade Moon. Glad you could join us. Welcome, Mythic Gecko. Welcome. That's Iconic Anemone, Mythic Gecko. It's not nice to interrogate the people in the chat, especially because their names are right there. Chloe the Great and Powerful, good evening. What we're reading tonight is chapter 58 to get started of Moby Dick, or The Whale, by Herman Melville. Okay. So let's see. Before we go into the end, we're going to do a few things. We're going to set our hostile creature sounds to off. We are going to remember to post the tipping link, because this is a viewer-supported reading of Moby Dick, and we are $13 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Just as a reminder, I might not expand the camera in the middle of a chapter unless I mess up anyway. Welcome, Lost Call Music. Thank you for tipping 3. That's now going to put us 10 away from that first face camera expansion milestone of the stream. We had a little bit of extra stream earlier today because I've got so much terraforming to do here on the HermitCraft server. I have worn through... This was all today, basically, that I wore through this many picks. Okay, we're going to need the sword for that. We're going to need the triple dent for the way home. Da-da-da. 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 Dee-dee-dee-dee. La da 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 do 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 do. Okay, so let's go. Soup can, yeah, everything is good with me. The only storm-related damage we had was some detritus got into our HVAC. So maintenance came by today and got that all sorted. We now have air conditioning again. But compared to the damage that some people were facing across Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, and Florida, we got off very lightly. No serious damage. Just a little bit of clearing out the inside of the HVAC. So, how's the chest monster in the pop-up shop impound lot going? Well, so far today we've gathered like another 40 shulkers, and we're gonna get another 50 probably by the end of the stream. So, let's get on it. Maples UHC says, what do you do at a school dance where you don't know anyone? How would I go to a school dance where I don't know anyone? You're describing a school that I either attend or where I'm invited by a student. Like, I wouldn't go to a school dance where I knew 0 people, because that would make 0 sense. Hey, looks like we got a tip rolling in. Let's see who that's from. From Hannah for 10, who says, for the dental work, hope it goes well. Well, we've had the dental work done, and Badger is recovering quickly. So thank you very much, though. Here we go. It's going to get us to our next face camera expansion milestone. So here we go. Expansion. Thank you very much, Hannah. Yeah, we got the dental work done, but, yeah, we had to put it on the credit card. So y'all are helping make sure that that and our other expenses for this month are all covered. Oh, boy. Okay. There's a difference between knowing no one and having no friends. A situation where I know 0 people is different from a situation where I know many people, but they don't like me. But anyway, we are reading chapter 58, Brit, of Moby Dick, aka The Whale, by Herman Melville. Chapter 58, Brit. Steering northeastwards from the Crozets, we fell in with vast meadows of Brit, the minute yellow substance upon which the right whale largely feeds. For leagues and leagues, it undulated all around us, so that we seemed to be sailing through boundless fields of ripe and golden wheat. On the second day, numbers of right whales were seen, who, secure from the attack of a sperm whaler, like the Pequod, with open jaws, sluggishly swam through the Brit, which, adhering to the fringing fibers of that wondrous Venetian blind in their mouths, was in that matter separated from the water that escaped at the lip. As morning mowers, who side by side slowly and seethingly advanced their scythes through the long wet grass of marshy meads, even so these monsters swam, making a strange grassy cutting sound, and leaving behind them endless swaths of blue upon the yellow sea. That part of the sea, known among whalemen as the Brazil Banks, does not bear that name as the banks of Newfoundland do, because of their being shallow and soundings there, but because of this remarkable meadow-like appearance caused by the vast drifts of Brit continually floating in those latitudes, where the right whale is often chased. But it was only the sound they made as they parted the Brit which at all reminded one of mowers. Seen from the mastheads, especially when they were paused and stationary for a while, their vast black forms looked more like lifeless masses of rock than anything else. And as in the great hunting countries of India, the stranger at a distance will sometimes pass on the plains recumbent elephants without knowing them to be such, taking them for bare, blackened elevations of the soil. Even so, often, with him who for the first time beholds this species of the leviathans of the deep, and even when recognized at last, their immense magnitude renders it hard, really, to believe that their immense magnitude renders it very hard, really, to believe that such bulky masses of overgrowth can possibly be instinct in all parts with the same sort of life that lives in a dog or a horse. Indeed, in other respects, you can hardly regard any creatures of the deep with the same feelings you do those of the shore. For though some old naturalists have maintained that all creatures of the land are of their kind in the sea, and though taking a broad, general view of the thing, this may very well be, yet coming to specialties, where, for example, does the ocean furnish any fish that in disposition answers to the sagacious kindness of the dog? The accursed shark alone can, in any generic respect, be said to bear comparative analogy to him. But, though to landsmen in general, the native inhabitants of the sea have ever been regarded with emotions unspeakably unsocial and repellent, though we know the sea to be an everlasting terra incognita, so that Columbus sailed o'er the numberless unknown worlds to discover his one superficial western one. Though, by vast odds, the most terrific of all mortal disasters have immemorially and indiscriminately befallen tens and hundreds of and thousands of those who have gone upon the waters, though but a moment's consideration will teach that however baby man may brag of his science and skill, And however much, in a flattering future, that science and skill may augment, yet forever and forever, to the crack of doom, the sea will insult and murder him. And pulverize the stateliest, stiffest frigate he can make. Nevertheless, by the continual repetition of these very impressions, he can make, nonetheless, nevertheless, by the continual repetition of these very impressions, man has lost the sense of the full awfulness of the sea, which aboriginally belongs to it. The first boat we read of floated on an ocean, that with Portuguese vengeance, had whelmed a whole world without leaving so much as a widow. That same ocean rolls now. That same ocean destroyed the wrecked ships of last year. Yea, foolish mortals, Noah's flood is not yet subsided. 2/3 of the fair world it yet covers. Wherein differ the sea and the land, that a miracle upon one is not a miracle upon the other. Preternatural terrors rested upon the Hebrews, when under the feet of Korah and his company the live ground opened and swallowed them up forever. And yet not a modern sun ever sets, but in precisely the same way the live sea swallows up ships and crews. But not only is the sea such a foe to man who is alien to it, but it is also a fiend to its own offspring, worse than the Persian host who murdered his own guests, sparing not the creatures which itself hath spawned. Like a savage tigress that tossing in the jungle overlays her own cubs, so the sea dashes even the mightiest whales against the rocks, and leaves them there, side by side, with the split wrecks of ships. No mercy, no power but its own, controls it. Panting and snorting like a mad battle steed that has lost its rider, the masterless ocean o'erruns the globe. Consider the subtleness of the sea, how its most dreaded creatures glide under water, unapparent for the most part, and treacherously hidden beneath the loveliest tints of azure. Consider also the devilish brilliance and beauty of many of its most remorseless tribes, as the dainty embellished shape of many species of sharks. Consider once more the universal cannibalism of the sea. All whose creatures prey upon each other, carrying on an eternal war since the world began. Consider all this, and then turn to the green, gentle, and most docile earth. Consider them both, the sea and the land, and do you not find a strange analogy to something in yourself? For as this appalling ocean surrounds the verdant land, so in the soul of man lies one insular Tahiti, full of peace and joy, but encompassed by all the horrors of the half-known life. God help thee. God keep thee. Push not off from that isle. Thou canst never return. And that concludes chapter 58 of Moby Dick, or The Whale, by Herman Melville. Welcome to everybody who came in during that. We are going to be updating our What We're Reading link to reflect that we are moving on to chapter 59, Squid. So where is that What We're Reading link? Oh, yeah, there it is. So we can just post the new one. Welcome, MH Polymath and Summer Woes. Every Saturday night, we do something a little different here. Welcome, Keons in the YouTube chat. And we read Moby Dick. Okay, so we're going to post that. So chapter 58 is a pretty chill chapter. We mostly got to watch some whales eat stuff. So, and not Ahab's leg this time. They're like, oh, these aren't sperm whales, so whatever. They're not worried about the right whale here on the Pequod, because they need that sperm whale oil to make candles and things like that. So other types of whales are just completely, who cares? Whatevs. Like, you know, whatever. But yeah, we are reading Moby Dick while we are gathering stone to deliver to our pal Etho here on the HermitCraft server. We've got a colossal chest monster we're in the process of filling. Progress is a little bit more manual at this point, because I think I've burned through every chest full of stone that I've stumbled across. MH Polymath says, are they recording to the previous chapters? Yes. The Moby Dick playlist can be found here. I will tell you, because of the way this story is told, you can basically just jump in wherever. Like, you would think, like, I've heard Moby Dick is a really complicated book. Well, the thing is, Moby Dick is a really circuitously told story where nothing will happen for 20 chapters at a time because the author keeps getting distracted. Like, the main speaker in this, Ishmael, is basically like a guy who comes up to you at a party and just starts talking about this time he went on a boat and won't shut up. Like, literally, the opening of this book is the guy saying, call me Ishmael. Anyway, I got tired of all these phonies on land, and then I went out to sea. And it's like, well, who does this guy think he is? Holden Caulfield? But yeah, it's basically like somebody who's constantly looking at their phone to, like, look up facts about the places they visited and gets, like, distracted down Wikipedia rabbit holes. This book is basically, it's not technically science fiction, but this book predicts what talking to somebody with a cell phone at a party will be like in the modern era, better than Asimov could have. Melville is a genius, and some of the chapters are basically like forum posts, where the guy is basically like, okay, guys, now I'm gonna rank my favorite whales by type, and he's like, here's my elaborate whale ranking system, and I'm just like, this is like somebody being like, okay, I'm gonna talk about all the different venom symbiotes, and I'm gonna rank them, and here's why this one can't really be compared to this one, but this one's equally good. And it is bonkers. This is, like I said, this is the book that best predicts modern communication by people who are not very good at noticing how interested the listener is in what they're saying. MH Polymath says, someone on the internet told me that Moby Dick is all yapping. It's kind of a combination of yapping and posting. It's, like I said, this basically predicts the internet communication style better than anything in science fiction. It's a remarkable work. Okay, so let's go ahead and offload some of this stuff just because we happen to be over here. And I want to see how this line we just put in, that is kind of where we want it. Okay, so that road is going to naturally intersect with that. Okay, cool, cool, cool. So yeah, I'm just trying to get a sense of where we want to put our effort at this stage of the project. And this right here is definitely it. Okay. So, is it enjoyable as a story? I think so, in the same way that the song Albuquerque is enjoyable as a story. If you like the song Albuquerque by Weird Al Yankovic, I believe you will enjoy Moby Dick. They are remarkably similar. Okay. So, Centauratron says it took 40 chapters for the book to tell us what it's actually about. Yeah, they kind of hint at what the book is about, but it's all over the place. This book also invented the meme of staying in a hotel with someone and only having one bed. Like, there's an entire chapter that sets up that entire genre of fan fiction. Like, Melville was truly a pioneer. Okay. But, like, you'll be reading this book and be like, wait, is this where society got this from? And the answer is yes. Melville did it first. Okay. So now that we've slept and turned night into day, actually, let's clear this out a little bit here. Okay, I actually think I want to move these shulkers down to there, probably. What's up, Zoekins? We're not in the middle. You don't have to whisper. We're not in the middle of a chapter. When we're in the middle of a chapter, I won't acknowledge the chat. But when we're between chapters, it's a lot more chatty over here. Oh, because you all capped yesterday. Yes, thank you, Zoekins, for watching the caps. I appreciate it. Sorry, my memory for day-to-day. Yeah, now that you mention it, I do recall that, and that is clever. I apologize for not recalling. Keon says, hold on, I had no idea that this is where there's only one bed from. Seriously, if you go back and read the first few chapters of this book, it's very early on in the book. But yeah, no, the idea of there's only one bed in this hotel room fan fiction came from this story. And there's a lot of setup for it, too. There's so much setup for it because nobody had ever seen anything like it. And so the author has to provide a lot of, like, oh boy, can you believe this? Well, you know, you might say, well, what about that? Well, believe me, I tried. Right? Like this book has so much trying to attempt to avoid that situation. Oh yeah, I forgot Scar's online. Oops, so we're gonna hit streaming and do not disturb. Evening, Scar. But yeah, we gotta set that to do not disturb. But yeah, okay. So, let's see. We've given the tips a chance to roll in. We've tweaked our inventory. I'll try my best, Taco Squirrel, to you. I'll try my best. Like I said, PayPal changed some things behind the scenes, and it threw me off, so, yeah. Okay, let's put those there so I know not to remove them again. Okay. So, okay. So where can we put these shulker boxes? We're going to put those down here. And then we're going to get back into the story. Uh-oh. Whap. Mistake. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. So we're going to put these shulker boxes down here. Whoops. Okay, we're going to throw that egg. We're going to pick up this random stuff. Shovel. Trident. Okay. Bum, bum, bum. So, the next chapter, chapter 59, is entitled Squid. Just as a reminder, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Ah, my gosh. How am I so bad at this? I keep removing the blocks underneath this water, and it's causing me nothing but suffering. Oh, this cycle of samsara. Which I am burdened to be incapable of escape. Boy, we have a lot of dirt over here. Hope that comes in handy later. Okay, let's use coal ore for the bottom of this. Dang it. That's not the bottom. So then we know not to remove that. What's the water for? Trident launch pad. Let's just quickly move between different things without wasting rockets. It's energy efficient. Okay. Chapter 59. Squid of Moby Dick or the Whale by Herman Melville. Slowly wading through the meadows of Brit, the Pequod still held in her way northeastward toward the Isle of Java, a gentle air impelling her keel, so that in the surrounding serenity, her 3 tall tapering masts wildly waved to that languid breeze as 3 mild palms upon a plain. And still, at wide intervals in the silvery night, the lonely, alluring jet would be seen. But one transparent blue morning, when a stillness almost preternatural spread o'er the sea, however unattended with any stagnant calm, when the long burnished sun glade on the waters seemed a golden finger laid across them, enjoining some secrecy. When the slippered waves whispered together as they softly ran on, in this profound hush of the visible sphere, a strange specter was seen by Daggoo from the main masthead. Wait. What is this? Oh, that's underneath the igloo. Okay, sorry. I did not know that that was going to be in there. So yeah, we're going to reconfigure that, I guess, and deal with that later. In the distance, a great white mass lazily rose, and rising higher and higher, and disentangling itself from the azure, at last gleamed before our prow like a snowslide, new slid from the hills. Thus, glistening for the moment, as it slowly subsided and sank, then once more arose and silently gleamed. It seemed not a whale. And yet, is this Moby Dick? Thought Daggoo. Again, the phantom went down, but on reappearing once more with a stiletto-like cry that startled every man from his nod, the harpooner yelled out,
There! There again! There she breaches! Right ahead! The white whale! The white whale!
Upon this, the seamen rushed to the yardarms, as in swarming time the bees rush to the bows. Bareheaded in the sultry sun, Ahab stood on the bowsprit with one hand pushed far behind in readiness to wave his orders to the helmsman, cast his eager glance in the direction indicated aloft by the outstretched, motionless arm of Daggoo. Whether the flitting attendance of the one still and solitary jet had gradually worked upon Ahab, so that he was now prepared to connect the ideas of mildness and repose at the first sight of this particular whale he pursued, however this was, or whether his eagerness betrayed him. Whichever way it might have been, no sooner did he distinctly perceive the white mass than with a quick intensity he instantly gave the orders for lowering. The 4 boats were soon on the water, Ahab's in advance, and all swiftly pulling toward their prey. Soon it went down, and while with oars suspended, we were awaiting its reappearance, lo, in the same spot where it sank, it once more slowly rose. Almost forgetting for the moment all thoughts of Moby Dick, we now gazed at the most wondrous phenomena which the secret seas have hitherto revealed to mankind. A vast pulpy mass, furlongs in length and breadth, of a glancing cream color, lay floating in the water. Innumerable long arms, radiating from its center, and curling and twisting like a nest of anacondas, as if blindly to clutch at any hapless object within reach. No perceptible face or front. Did it have no conceivable token of either sensation or instinct, but undulated there on the billows, an unearthly, formless, chance-like apparition of life. As with a low, sucking sound, it slowly disappeared again. Starbuck, still gazing at the agitated waters where it sank, with a wild voice exclaimed,
Almost rather had I seen Moby Dick and fought him, than to have seen thee, thou white ghost.
"What was it, sir?" said Flask.
The great live squid, which they say few whale ships ever beheld and returned to their ports to tell of it.
But Ahab said nothing. Turning his boat, he sailed back to the vessel. The rest as silently following. Whatever superstition the sperm whalemen have in general, connected with the sight of this object, certain it is that a glimpse of it being so very unusual that circumstance has gone to invest it with portentousness. So rarely is it beheld that though one and all of them declare it to be the largest animated thing in the ocean, yet very few of them have the most vague ideas concerning its true nature and form. Notwithstanding, they believe it to furnish the sperm whale with his only food. For though other species of whales find their food above water and may be seen by man in the act of feeding, the spermaceti whale obtains his whole food in unknown zones beneath the surface. And only by inference is it that anyone can tell of what precisely that food consists. At times, when closely pursued, he will disgorge what are supposed to be detached arms of the squid, some of them thus exhibited exceeding 20 or 30 feet in length. They fancy that the monster to which these arms belonged ordinarily clings to them, or clings by them to the bed of the ocean, and that the sperm whale, unlike other species, is equipped with teeth in order to attack and tear it. There seems some good ground to imagine that the great kraken of Bishop Pontoppidan may ultimately resolve itself into the squid. The manner in which the bishop describes it as alternatively rising and sinking, with some other particulars he narrates. In all this, the two correspond, but much abatement is necessary with respect to the incredible bulk he assigns it. By some naturalists who have vaguely heard rumors of the mysterious creature here spoken of, it is included among the class of cuttlefish, to which, indeed, in certain respects, it would seem to belong, but only as the anak of the tribe. And that concludes chapter 59, The Squid, from Moby Dick, or The Whale, by Herman Melville. So they've been chasing Moby Dick after seeing his spout night after night, but never seeing him in person or in Whaleson. Finally, they see him. And it's just like, here is a squid, a most terrifying and portentous beast. And Ahab is just like quietly, nope. Yeah, you know, they make a big deal about how like Ahab is completely obsessed with this whale, and will stop at nothing, and has been planning and scheming and undermining his partners in the ship and all this other stuff. But like, everybody kind of sees the squid, and Ahab's just like, yeah, we're gonna call it this morning. Yeah, whale hunt called on account of squid for the day. Yeah, everybody, let's get an early lunch. Centauratron in the Patreon Discord chat says, I don't think I've ever heard a squid described so eerily. Absolute Right says, this is my first Joe stream. Welcome. Yeah, so every Saturday night we read Moby Dick while I do terraforming stuff. I can't do complex things in Minecraft like redstone or building while I read. But, I mean, I've spent years reading chat while playing Minecraft, and it turns out that that actually prepared me pretty well to read short stories. And so I would read short stories and poems while I did big terraforming projects on Saturday nights and songs and stuff. And then at one point, we started reading Dracula. And I was like, I wonder, I probably couldn't read Dracula while we did this. And then we read the whole novel of Dracula over the course of about a year. Like one chapter a week, every Saturday. We finished Dracula, and I'm like, well, we're doing Moby Dick now. Yeah. Dracula D says, a whole year, wow. Yeah, well, the thing is, it's about a 40-something, 50-something chapter book, and yeah, if you do it once a week, you know, you come out to about a year, you take Christmas off or whatever. Yeah. So it took about a year to read Dracula out loud, one chapter at a time while doing terraforming. So what we're building is the Bell Laboratories Research and Development campus, designed by the same architect who made the St. Louis Arch, Finnish architect Eero Saarinen. And yeah, so this place is huge, and in order to actually terraform it, we need a lot of material, and we need to remove a lot of stuff. So we're in process. This is process. Welcome to the process. We got things going on. Da 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 da. Process. Welcome to the process. Okay, so now we're under the igloo. Da 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 da. Okay, so we're just going to keep ripping into this. And we'll just leave the igloo up there suspended by its little pole, because it's funny to me. Dracula D says, this season, or the scale is so big, I worry the season will be over before you can truly finish. I mean, that's always the risk. That's always the risk. But the thing is, this is the sort of project that's fractal, where the longer the season goes, the more detail I can add. Like, right now, because I'm pretty sure I've got 9 months to a year, I'm working at a particular pace, and I'm focusing on certain parts of the project. If I was told, Joe, you've only got a month to finish this, I would prioritize other parts of the project. And it would... The goal is to make it look done regardless of how long you actually have to do it. Because on HermitCraft, you never know how long you have to do things. Like, we don't really have a good idea of our season lengths in advance, usually. So you build something that's got some flex to it, right? So right now, I'm working at a 9-month scale, but if I had to cut down to a 3-month scale or a 6-month scale, I could. And I can also expand up to a 12-month scale and be fine. Okay, so we're going to real quick hop up here, drop off some of this stuff in the boxes. Dun 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 dun. Yurgi says, curls up in corner. Welcome, Yurgi. Just as a reminder, if you're enjoying this stream, we're only $20 away from our next face camera expansion milestone. It's a viewer-supported stream. The Herman Millville estate doesn't pay me to promote his work like this. I'm just doing this for y'all. So if you enjoy it, feel free to support the show. PayPal and YouTube Super Chat are the best way. We also have Patreon if you want to commit to long-term support. $5 a month gets you into my Patreon Discord. $10 a month gets you into my Patreon SMP. Where's that link? Here it is. Da 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 da. Oh yeah. So remember how yesterday I said that my I was setting up a 4-day hardcore world server with a few fun mods for people to play on. One of them was the physics mod with the TNT cannon. So hardcore world, where you're giving everybody free TNT cannons. That's going to be a good time. But yeah, I told people in the promotional thing when I you know, I mentioned this is only going to be up for 4 days, so don't sleep on this opportunity. And so apparently some people did not take me literally enough and tried to make beds in the world and didn't realize that one of the secret mods, I say some people, this was discovered, so if you discover one of the secret mods, you get credit in the little post on my Discord. One of the secret mods that I had not announced, I can now confirm was discovered by Madeline and Michael Socks. I had hinted that one of the mods had the initials BGM, and that's the Beds Go Boom mod, which gives beds the same effect in the overworld as in the Nether and the End. So apparently Madeline and Michael Socks were attempting to avoid some of the problems they were having with phantoms. Because since it's a hardcore world, you don't really need a bed to reset your spawn, because you die and you're done. But phantoms were a problem. So they made beds, and, But once again, this is only a 4-day world, and part of the fun is trying to discover those. So I gave, Michael Socks a little trophy emoji for successfully identifying one of those mods. Hey, we got a tip rolling in. Let's see who it's from. It's from Queen Dark Lady, who says, I am a human-ish. I support this stream. Thank you very much, Queen Dark Lady. I don't know what accent that was. It was kind of all over the place. But here we go. Expand Joe. Do-do-do-do. That puts us $20 away from the next Face Gamer expansion milestone and the entrance of the Joust. Also, if anybody does sign up for the Patreon right now, just so you know, I do manual invites because I don't trust the API to not let bots in with stolen credit cards or whatever. So, yeah, I send the invites out manually in batches once per day. So don't expect to get an invite in the middle of the stream. It'll be sometime in the next 24 hours, but not, like, right now, because I'm in the middle of reading Moby Dick and playing Minecraft. But, okay, so, where were we? So we really should be breaking down a bunch of stone right now for the main part of what we're trying to accomplish. But this dirt is also in my way, and I just took that personally. So, yeah, we're gonna deal with that too. Okay. Okay. So let's go put the dirt and grass up, and then we might want to swap tools. Nah, I think we're okay. I think we're okay to do our reading with the current tools. So next one, chapter 60, is entitled The Line. Have we updated that what we're reading link? No, we haven't. So yeah, let's update the what we're reading link before we actually start reading it. Okay. Replace pinned message. Pin message. Manually unpin it into stream. Unbuckled Spaghetti says about the Discord, I love personal invites. They feel more personal. Exactly. Plus, this way I get to see every name of every person coming in. Hey, we got a tip rolling in via PayPal. Let's see who that's from. Minnie Zoe, thank you very much. Who tips 5 and says, so excited for the Patreon parade tomorrow. That should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Minnie Zoe. Let's see, we are now 15 away from the next Face Gamer expansion milestone. And I think it's about time we resume our reading here. We really need to get back to the dealing with the stone as well. So yeah, we're gonna... Let's head back this way. Chapter 60 of Moby Dick, or The Whale, by Herman Melville. The Line. With reference to the wheeling... Wow, I'm starting off strong. Wheeling scene. I am not a professional book on tape reader, you guys. Witness the failure. With reference to the whaling scene shortly to be described, as well as for the better understanding of all similar scenes elsewhere presented, I have to here speak of the magical, sometimes horrible, whale line. The line, originally used in the fishery, was of the best temp, slightly vapored with tar, not impregnated with it, as is the case of ordinary ropes, for while tar, as ordinarily used, makes the hemp more pliable to the rope maker, and also renders the rope itself more convenient to the sailor for common ship use, yet not only would the ordinary quantity too much stiffen the whale line for the close coiling to which it must be subjected, but as most seamen are beginning to learn, tar in general by no means adds to the rope's durability or strength, however much it may give it compactness and gloss. Of late years, the manila rope has in the American fishery almost entirely superseded hemp as a material for whale lines, for, though not so durable as hemp, it is stronger and far more soft and elastic. And I will add, since there is aesthetics in all things, is much more handsome and becoming to the boat than hemp. Hemp is a dusky... Wow. Okay, yeah, so this gets super racist here, and he compares the different ropes to different races. Once again, not everything Melville does is great or agreeable. So we're going to skip that sentence. Thanks, Herman Melville. The whale line is only 2/3 of an inch in thickness. At first sight, you would not think it so strong as it really is. By experiment, its 1 and 50 yarns will each suspend a weight of 120 pounds, so that the whole rope will bear a strain nearly equal to 3 tons. In length, the common sperm whale line measures something over 200 fathoms. Toward the stern of the boat, it is spirally coiled away in the tub, not unlike the worm pipe of a still, though, but so as to form one round cheese-shaped mass of densely bedded sheaves, or layers of concentric spiralizations, without any hollow but the heart, or minute vertical tube formed at the axis of the cheese. As the least tangle or kink in the coiling would, in running out, infallibly take off somebody's arm, or leg, or entire body off, the utmost precaution is used in stowing the line in its tub. Some harpooneers will consume almost an entire morning in this business, carrying the line high aloft, and then reeving it downwards through a block toward the tub, so as in the act of coiling to free it from all possible wrinkles and twists. In the English boats, 2 tubs are used instead of 1. The same line being continuously poiloed. Hi, Poilo. Being continuously coiled in both tubs. There is some advantage to this, because these twin tubs, being so small, they fit more readily into the boat, and do not strain it so much, whereas the American tub, nearly 3 feet in diameter and proportionate depth, makes a rather bulky freight for a craft whose planks are but 1/2 inch in the thickness. For the bottom of the whaleboat is like critical ice, which will bear up a considerable distributed weight, but not very much of a concentrated one. When the painted canvas cover is clapped on the American line tub, the boat looks as if it were pulling off with a prodigious great wedding cake to present to the whales. Both ends of the line are exposed, the lower end terminating in an eye splice or loop, coming up from the bottom against the side of the tub and hanging over its edge, completely disengaged from everything. This arrangement of the lower end is necessary on 2 accounts. First, in order to facilitate the fastening of an additional line from a neighboring boat in case the stricken whale should sound so deep as to threaten to carry off the entire line originally attached to the harpoon. In these instances, the whale, of course, is shifted like a mug of ale, as it were, from the one boat to the other, though the first boat always hovers its hand to assist its consort. Second, this arrangement is indispensable for safety's sake, for were the lower end of the line in any way attached to the boat, and were the whale then to run the line out to the end, almost in a single smoking minute, as he sometimes does, he would not stop there, for the doomed boat would infallibly be dragged down after him into the profundity of the sea, and in that case, no town crier would ever find her again. Before lowering the boat for the chase, the upper end of the line is taken aft from the tub, and, passing round the loggerhead there, is again carried forward the entire length of the boat, resting crosswise upon the loom or handle of every man's oar, so that it jogs against his wrist in rowing, and also passing between the men, as they alternately sit at the opposite gunwales, to the leaded chocks or grooves in the extreme pointed prow of the boat, where a wooden pin, or skewer the size of a common quill, prevents it from slipping out. From the chocks it hangs in a slight festoon over the bows. It continues its way to the gunwale, still a little further aft, and is then attached to the short warp, the rope which is immediately connected with the harpoon. But previous to that connection, the short warp goes through sundry mystifications, too tedious to detail. Thus, the whale line folds the whole boat in its complicated coils, twisting and writhing around it in almost every direction. All the oarsmen are involved in its perilous contortions, so that to the timid eye of the landsman they seem as jugglers with the deadliest snakes sportively festooning their limbs. Nor can any son of mortal woman for the first time seat himself among those hempen intricacies, and while straining his utmost at the oar, bethink that at any unknown instant the harpoon may be darted, and all these horrible contortions be put in play like ringed lightnings. He cannot be thus circumstanced without a shudder that makes the very marrow in his bones quiver in him like a shaken jelly. Yet habit, strange thing, what cannot habit accomplish? Gayer sailors, more merry mirth, better jokes, and brighter repartees. You've never heard o'er your mahogany than you will ever hear o'er the half-inch white cedar of the whaleboat, when thus hung in hangman's nooses, and like the 6 burghers of Calais before King Edward, the 6 men composing the crew pull into the jaws of death with a halter around every neck, as you may say. Perhaps a very little thought will now enable you to account for those repeated whaling disasters, some few of which are casually chronicled, of this man or that man being taken out of the boat by the line and lost. For, when the line is darting out, to be seated then in the boat is like being seated in the midst of the manifold whizzings of a steam engine in full play, when every flying beam and shaft and wheel is grazing you. It is worse, for you cannot sit motionless in the heart of these perils, because the boat is rocking like a cradle, and you are pitched one way and the other without the slightest warning, and only by a certain self-adjusting buoyancy and simultaneousness of volition and action can you escape being made a Mazeppa of, and run away with, where the all-seeing sun himself could never piece you out. Again, the profound calm which only apparently precedes and prophesies of the storm is perhaps more awful than the storm itself. For indeed, the calm is but the wrapper and envelope of the storm, and contains in itself, as the seemingly harmless rifle holds the fatal powder and the ball and the explosion, so the graceful repose of the line, as it silently serpentines about the oarsman before being brought into actual play, this is a thing which carries more of true terror than any other aspect of this dangerous affair. But why say more? All men live enveloped in whale lines. All are born with halters round their necks, but it is only when caught in the swift, sudden turn of death that mortals realize the silent, subtle, ever-present perils of life. And if you be a philosopher, though seated in the whaleboat, you would not at heart feel one whit more terror than those seated before your evening fire with a poker and not a harpoon by your side. And thus concludes Chapter 60 of Moby Dick, The Line. Okay, I gotta say, I think the funniest part of that chapter is the part where he reaches where he needs to describe how the harpoon line is connected to the main whale line, and he's just like, that's out of scope. This guy has spent entire chapters describing absolutely everything else about whaling, but he gets to this, and he's like, nope, that's the line. We have a lot of fun here on HermitCraft. Let's go get some more fireworks. Chloe Singleton, thank you for your concern, but Nashville was not impacted too heavily by Hurricane Helene. We had about 5 inches of rain, which is not good, but we're doing fine. We had the only personal discomfort I had to deal with was we had our HVAC break on us. Apparently some detritus from the storm got in there, but maintenance came out and fixed it today. So, yeah, this is very minor compared to the peril and misfortune experienced by folks in West Tennessee, or sorry, not West Tennessee, East Tennessee, Western North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. So thank you for your concern, but we're doing okay. Chloe Singleton says, my hometown in North Carolina has been basically destroyed. Ugh, yeah, it is terrifying reading about some of the stuff out there. Hope they were able to get out safe, your folks and people you knew, because, yeah, it's a tragedy all around, but, you know, better to lose buildings than people. At the point where you're like, that's where we're counting our blessings, you can tell it's not a good situation on the whole, but, yeah. Hopefully they're all safe. But, yeah. So, speaking of watery disasters, Moby Dick, huh? Anybody have any thoughts on chapter 60 that we just read? To get us back on topic. Well, there's still time. Okay, well, let's see if we got any tips that rolled in during that chapter. Nope, that's okay. Just as a reminder, if you're enjoying the stream, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. I'm going to go ahead and I think we want to jump into the next chapter here. Boy, okay, so the problem with the next chapter is it's grouped with chapter 62 and 63, as I'm just skimming ahead. So, if we read chapter 61 tonight, which was my original plan, then we kind of need to get through 63 to have these kind of make sense. Because sometimes Melville starts a chapter with... So, anyway, in relation to what I just said, let me expand on this one thing. And he does that at the beginning of chapter 62 and 63. So, basically, chapter 61, he needs to explain. Let me make sure that chapter 64 you could start on your own. So, yeah, let's see. Since it's only 9:30, and my voice is feeling pretty good, I feel like we'll be okay. Welcome, Karish. Glad you could join us. Jen K, glad your family is fine. Chloe Singleton, glad that everyone you can reach is safe. Alrighty. So yeah, executive decision. We have so many blocks to move. We're doing it. We're doing chapter 61, 62, and 63. Should I retitle the stream? I hate changing the stream title in the middle, but I don't like the stream title to be wrong either. Update title. Chapters 58 to 63. Update. Okay. Yeah, these are all relatively short chapters. Okay, so nobody seems to have any thoughts on chapter 60. So we're just going to move right along. Chapter 61. Stubb kills a whale. If to Starbuck, the apparition of the squid was a thing of portents, to Queequeg, it was quite a different object.
When you see him, Squid!
Said Queequeg, honing his harpoon in the bow of his hoisted boat.
Then you quick see him, sperm whale!
The next day was exceedingly still and sultry, and with nothing special to engage them, the Pequod's crew could hardly resist the spell of sleep induced by such a vacant sea. For this part of the Indian Ocean through which we were voyaging is not what whalemen call a lively ground. That is, it affords fewer glimpses of dolphins, porpoises, flying fish, and other vivacious denizens of more stirring waters than those off the Rio de Plata or the inshore ground off Peru. It was my turn to stand at the foremast head, and with my shoulders leaning against the slackened royal shrouds, to and fro I idly swayed in what seemed an enchanted air. No resolution could withstand it. In that my dreamy mood, losing all consciousness, at last my soul went out of my body, though my body still continued to sway as a pendulum will, long ere the power which first moved it was withdrawn. Ere forgetfulness altogether came over me, I noticed that the seamen at the mast and the mizzen were already drowsy, so that at last all three of us lifelessly swung from the spars, and for every swing that we made there was a nod from below, from the slumbering helmsman. The waves, too, nodded their indolent crests, and across the wide trance of the sea, east nodded to west, and the sun o'er all. Suddenly, bubbles seemed bursting beneath my closed eyes like vices in my hands grasped the shrouds. Some invisible, gracious agency preserved me. With a shock, I came back to life, and lo, close under our lee, not 40 fathoms off, a gigantic sperm whale lay rolling in the water like the capsized hull of a frigate, his broad, glossy back of an Ethiopian hue, glinting in the sun's rays like a mirror, but lazily undulating in the trough of the sea, and ever and anon tranquilly spouting his vapory jet, the whale looked like a portly burgher smoking his pipe on a warm afternoon. But that pipe, poor whale, was thy last. As if struck by some enchanter's wand, the sleepy ship and every sleeper in it at once startled into wakefulness, and more than a score of voices from all parts of the vessel, simultaneously with the 3 notes from aloft, shouted forth the accustomed cry as the great fish slowly and regularly spouted the sparkling brine into the air. "Clear away the boat! Luff!" cried Ahab. And obeying his own order, he dashed the helm down before the helmsman could handle the spokes. The sudden exclamations of the crew must have alarmed the whale. Ere the boats were down, majestically turning, he swam away to the leeward. But with such a steady tranquility, and making so few ripples as he swam, that thinking, after all, he might not be as yet alarmed, Ahab gave orders that not an oar should be used, and that no man must speak, but in whispers. So, seated like Ontario natives on the gunwales of the boats, we swiftly but silently paddled along, the calm not admitting of the noiseless sails being set. Presently, as we glided in chase, the monster perpendicularly flitted his tail 40 feet into the air, and then sank out of sight, like a tower swallowed up. "There go the flukes!" was the cry. An announcement immediately followed by Stubbs producing his match and igniting his pipe. For now, a respite was granted. After the full interval of his sounding had elapsed, the whale rose again, and being now in advance of the smoker's boat, and much nearer to it than any of the others, Stubb counted upon the honor of the capture. It was obvious now that the whale had at length become aware of its pursuers. All silence of cautiousness was therefore no longer of use. Paddles were dropped. And oars came loudly into play. And still puffing his pipe, Stubb cheered on his crew to the assault. Yes, a mighty change had come over the fish. All alive to his jeopardy, he was going head out, that part obliquely projecting from the mad yeast which he brewed. It will be seen in some other place of what a very light substance the interior of a sperm whale's enormous head consists. Though apparently the most massive, it is by far the most buoyant part about him, so that with ease he elevates it in the air, and invariably does so when going at his utmost speed. Besides, such is the breadth of the upper part of the front of his head, and such is the tapering cutwater formation of the lower part, that by obliquely elevating his head, he thereby may be said to transform himself from a bluff-bowed sluggish galliot into a sharp-pointed New York pilot boat.
Starter, my men. Don't hurry yourselves. Take plenty of time, but starter like thunderclaps, that's all,"
cried Stubb, sputtering out the smoke as he spoke.
"Starter now, give 'em the long and smooth stroke. Tash Tago, starter Tash, starter my boy, starter all, but keep cool, cucumbers is the word, easy. Only started like grim death and grinning devils and raise the buried dead perpendicular with the graves, boys. And that's all. Starter!
Woohoo! Wahee! Cried the gay header in reply, raising some old war whoop to the skies as every oarsman in the strained boat involuntarily bounced forward with the one tremendous leading stroke which the eager Tashtego gave. But his wild screams were answered by others quite as wild.
Kee-hee! Kee-hee!
Yelled Dagu, straining forward and backwards on his seat, like a pacing tiger in his cage.
Kalaw! Kaloo!
Howled Queequeg, as if smacking his lips over a mouthful of grenadier's steak. And thus, with oars and yells, the keels cut to sea. Meanwhile, Stubb, retaining his place in the van, still encouraged the men to the onset, all the while puffing the smoke from his mouth. Like desperados, they tugged and they strained till the whole welcome cry was heard.
Stand up, Tashtego! Give it to him!
The harpoon was hurled.
Sternal!
The oarsmen backed water the same moment something went hot and hissing along every one of their wrists. It was the magical line. An instant before, Stubb had swiftly caught 2 additional turns with it round the loggerhead, whence, by reason of its increased rapid circlings, a hempen blue smoke now jetted up and mingled with the steady fumes from his pipe. As the line passed round and round the loggerheads, so also, just before reaching that point, it blisteringly passed through and through both of Stubb's hands, from which the handcloths, or squares of quilted canvas, sometimes worn at these times, had accidentally dropped. It was like holding an enemy's sharp 2-edged sword by the blade, and that enemy, all the time, striving to wrest it out of your clutch.
With the line! With the line!
Cried Stubb to the tub oarsman, him seated by the tub, who, snatching off his hat, dashed seawater into it. More turns were taken, so that the line began holding its place. The boat now flew through the boiling water like a shark all fins. Stubb and Tashtego here changed places, stem for stern. A staggering business, truly, in that rocking commotion. Partly to show the indispensableness of this act, it may here be stated that, in the old Dutch fishery, a mop was used to dash the running line with water. In many other ships, a wooden piggin or bailer is set apart for that purpose. Your hat, however, is the most convenient. From the vibrating line extending the entire length of the upper part of the boat, and from it now being more tight than a harp string, you would have thought the craft had 2 keels, one cleaving the water, the other the air, as the boat churned on through both opposing elements at once. A continual cascade played at the bows, a ceaseless whirling eddy in her wake, and, at the slightest motion from within, even but of a little finger, the vibrating, crackling craft canted over spasmodic gunwale into the sea. Thus they rushed, each man with his might and main clinging to his seat, to prevent being tossed to the foam, and the tall form of Tashtego at the steering oar crouching almost double, in order to bring down his center of gravity. Whole Atlantics and Pacifics seemed past as they shot by on their way, till at length the whale somewhat slackened his fight.
Haul in! Haul in!
Cried Stubb to the bowsman, and, facing round toward the whale, all hands began pulling the boat up to him, while yet the boat was being towed on. Soon, by ranging up his flank, Stubb, firmly planting his knee in the clumsy cleat, darted dart after dart into the flying fish. At the word of command, the boat alternately sterning out of the way for the whale's horrible wallow, and then ranging up for another fling. The red tide now poured from all sides of the monster. Like brooks down a hill. His tormented body rolled not in brine, but in blood, which burbled and seethed for furlongs behind in their wake. The slanting sun, playing upon the crimson pond in the sea, sent back its reflection into every face so that they all glowed to each other. And all the while, jet after jet of white smoke was agonizingly shot from the spiracle of the whale, and the vehement puff after puff from the mouth of the excited headsman, as at every dart, hauling in upon his crooked lance by the line attached to it, Stubb straightened it again and again, by a few rapid blows again to the gunwale, then again sent it into the whale. "Pull up! Pull up!" he now cried to the bowsman, as the waning whale relaxed in its wrath. "Pull up! Close to!" And the boat ranged along the whale's flank. When reaching far o'er the bow, Stubb slowly churned his long, sharp lance into the fish, and kept it there, carefully churning and churning, as if cautiously seeking to feel after some gold watch that the whale might have swallowed, and which he was fearful of breaking ere he could hook it out. But that gold watch he sought was the innermost life of the fish. And now it is struck. For, starting from his trance into the unspeakable thing called his flurry, the monster horribly wallowed in his blood, overwrapped himself in an impenetrable, mad, boiling spray, so that the imperiled craft, instantly dropping astern, had much ado blindly to struggle out from that frenzied twilight into the clear air of day. And now, abating in his flurry, the whale once more rolled out into view, surging from side to side, spasmodically dilating and contracting his spout hole, with sharp, cracking, agonized respirations. At last, gush after gush of clotted red gore, and falling back again, as if it had been the purple lees of red wine shot into the frightened air, and falling back again, ran dripping down his motionless flanks into the sea. His heart had burst.
"He's dead, Mr. Stubb,"
said Daggoo.
"Yep, both pipes smoked out."
And withdrawing his own from his mouth, Stubb scattered the dead ashes over the water, and, for a moment, stood thoughtfully eyeing the vast corpse he had made. And that concludes Chapter 61 of Moby Dick, or The Whale, by Herman Melville. So, any thoughts on that chapter? Just as a reminder, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. So we're going to read 2 more chapters, because the next 2 chapters are both tie-in chapters to Chapter 61. Chapter 62 is called The Dart, and we're going to get onto that shortly. I need to update the What We're Reading link. Nola says, "Hey guys, I haven't shown up to a Moby Dick stream in weeks. I got no idea what's going on, but I got tired of my own bedroom sounds while I play Wario's Woods." Well, welcome to Moby Dick. You haven't missed much. They saw a squid, and now they saw a whale. It's a book about whale hunting, but I think this is the first chapter where they've actually killed a whale. Chapter 61. Welcome to the jungle. Bum, 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 bum. So yeah, Ishmael is on a whaling voyage, and Stubbs' boat got a whale. Okay, we're gonna offload this stuff here. Abby M says, these chapters feel surprisingly short, but then again, I haven't read a chapter book in a while either. These chapters are highly irregular. So when we read Dracula, each chapter would take about 60 to 75 minutes to read. And so with the talks in between bits of the chapter, we would end up with a 2-hour stream. With Moby Dick, I think one of the chapters was like 2 hours on its own, but other chapters are like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It's all over the place. Melville did not see any reason to strive for particular chapter lengths. The chapters are exactly as long as he intends them to be, and that's fine with him. Which, I mean, that's fine with me, too, because that's how I do my HermitCraft episodes. But, like, you know, it does make it hard to predict, like, how long a stream is going to be when I'm like, I don't know what's in here. Okay, Cub fan's online, but he's probably not using a bed. Whoops. Of course, that's got the wrong stuff in it here. Let's put that in there. Bum, 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 dun, 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 dun. Lay our heads down and dream. But yeah, we are only $15 away from the next Face Gamer expansion milestone, so let's hold up that abacus while we rest in game. Welcome, that's Barand. We were just reading Moby Dick. We just finished chapter 61, and so I need to update my what we're reading link at the top of the stream to reference chapter 62, The Dart. But if you want to follow along, there's the Project Gutenberg link. Gonna repin that. Replace that pinned message. Yep, we read Dracula last season. This season we're reading Moby Dick. Every Saturday night, we read a book while doing a massive terraforming project. Let me zoom out here. Here's our massive terraforming project. We're removing these mountains. It's a whole thing. Okay. Finishing up some coral gathering on Scar World. Awesome. I hope you had a good time. Okay. Let's go ahead and clear out this part over this overhang, because this is going to be annoying to do while I'm reading. Like, while I'm reading, I can only do really basic tasks. Complicated stuff frustrates me. Like, I can't do redstone while I'm reading a novel. But I can, like, mine in straight lines. So that's mostly what we're doing, is we're mining in straight lines. Weird overhangs, let's do those between chapters. Because that's a little bit more spatially conscious. Awesome. Glad you had a good time on Scar World there, but that's burned. Da 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 da. Okay. Da 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 da. Do 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 do. Okay, let's take this moment to offload some of that there, just to free up some space. And off we go. Okay. Mini Zoekin says, when you fell through the hole during the chapter and didn't flinch during the read, expert multitasking. I mean, I fall in holes a lot in Minecraft. Like, there's one now. You know, like, if I freaked out every time I fell in a hole in Minecraft, I'd get nothing done. You know? So, okay. Let me scroll down here. Chapter 62, The Dart. Just as a reminder, any tips that roll in during the chapter, I won't necessarily stop in the middle of the chapter to acknowledge. I do appreciate raids. I do appreciate tips, but, like, we're kind of trying to maintain a tempo when we're reading. So, let's go. Chapter 62 of Moby Dick, or The Whale by Herman Melville. The Dart. Of course, I immediately fall in a hole before I... Okay, see, that wasn't mid-sentence. That was at a natural pause. It's harder to recover from something stupid during a natural pause. Grumble, 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 grumble. It's fine. You're going to take this moment to swap out the pickaxes anyway, and then we're going right back. Going right back. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Chapter 62 of Moby Dick or the Whale by Herman Melville. The Dart. A word concerning the incident in the last chapter. According to the invariable usage of the fishery, the whaleboat pushes off from the ship, with the headsman or whale killer as temporary steersman, and the harpooner or whale fastener pulling the foremost oar, the one known as the harpooner oar. Now it needs a strong, nervous arm to strike the first iron into the fish, for often, in what is called the long dart, the heavy implement has to be flung to the distance of 20 or 30 feet. But, however prolonged and exhausting the chase, the harpooner is expected to pull his oar meanwhile to the uttermost. Indeed, he is expected to set an example of superhuman activity to the rest. Not only by his incredible rowing, but by repeated loud and intrepid exclamations, and what it is to keep shouting at the top of one's compass while all one's muscles are strained and half started. What that is, none know but those who have tried it. For one, I cannot bawl very heartily while I work recklessly at one and the same time. In this straining, bawling state, then, with his back to the fish, all at once, the exhausted harpooner hears the exciting cry, "Stand up and give it to him." He now has to drop and secure his oar, turn round on his center halfway, seize his harpoon from the crotch, and with what little strength may remain, he essays to pitch it somehow into the whale. No wonder, taking the whole fleet of whalemen in a body, that out of 50 fair chances for a dart, not 5 are successful. No wonder that so many hapless harpooners are cursed and distracted. No wonder that some of them actually burst their own blood vessels in the boat. No wonder that some sperm whalemen, absent some 4 years with 4 barrels. No wonder that to many ship owners, whaling is but a losing concern, for it is the harpooner that makes the voyage, and if you take the breath out of his body, how can you expect him to find it when it is most wanted? Again, if the dart be successful, then at that second critical instant, that is, when the whale starts to run, the boat header and harpooner likewise start to running fore and aft to the immediate jeopardy of themselves and everyone else. It is then they change places, and the headsman, the chief officer of the little craft, takes his proper station in the bows of the boat. Now I care not who maintains the contrary, but all this is both foolish and unnecessary. The headsman should stay in the bows from first to last. He should both dart the harpoon and the lance, and no rowing, whatever, should be expected of him, except under circumstances obvious to any fisherman. I know that this would sometimes involve a slight loss of speed of the chase, but long experience in various whalemen of more than one nation has convinced me that in the vast majority of failures in the fishery, it is not by any means been so much the speed of the whale as the before described exhaustion of the harpooner that has caused them. To ensure the greatest efficiency in the dart, the harpooners of this world must start to their feet from out of idleness, not from out of toil. Welcome, Yipsy Pinball Raiders. That concludes Chapter 62 of Moby Dick or the Whale by Herman Melville. Yeah, I am not building a pinball machine right now. I do play pinball. Right now we are playing Minecraft. Every Saturday night I read from an old public domain novel and work on my large-scale terraforming projects. My current large-scale terraforming project is a replica of Bell Laboratories Research and Development Facility from Holmdel, New Jersey. Let me post a what we're building link. This is a server called HermitCraft, which is a long-term vanilla survival Minecraft server. I've been playing on HermitCraft for over 10 years now. We have reset the world about 9 times. We most recently reset earlier this year. So everything you see here is done since February. Raw Dog says, I love HermitCraft. Let's go. Yeah, I joined HermitCraft in week 5 of season 1. I was the first person to join the server who was not a founding member, making me the original new guy. PK Shaw says, what inspired you to make Bell Labs? I'm going to be honest. I had this idea in my head. So in Minecraft, it used to be that you couldn't see anything more than like 16 chunks away, which is not very far. But now we've got these mods that let you turn up the render distance. So I wanted to do a project that was very broad. Like, I'm always trying to push the limits of what the tech of Minecraft lets you do. Last season, they introduced a higher build height. And so I did a pinball machine from bedrock to build height to take advantage of the extra space for the back box. This season, I'm trying to do something very wide. And I saw this building, and I thought, that's got some interesting parking lots. What if, in our interpretation of this campus here, we let our friends build cool stuff nearby? So my friend Cubfan built a labyrinth down here in this third of one of the parking lots. We've got a large aquarium there, partially constructed by myself, partially by Doc M77. The central building here in real life is a 1/4 mile long and made of mirrored glass. There's no mirrored glass in Minecraft, so we're using packed ice to capture that. But Mikkel Shiv says this progress is insane. Yeah, it takes a lot of time to do the sort of terraforming and large-scale work. Like the ovals for the roads around this, that oval with the concentric rings, that's 900 meters on the major diameter and 600 meters on the minor diameter. It's a pretty big oval. We're ringing that's made of gravel ringed with frog lights. One of my friends runs the stone shop on the server and also the frog light shop. And so I have been mining out these mountains to give him stone in exchange for the frog lights that I'm lining the roads with. I have just broken, earlier today, 2 million stone mined on the server, which I'm not really big on numerical landmarks or whatever, but some people think that's impressive. But yeah, so this is a very large-scale project, and I'm looking forward to doing the more artistic parts of it. Zaylee They says, doesn't Etho sell frog lights? Yes, Etho sells frog lights, but he also sells stone, right? So what I'm doing is I'm putting all the stone like that. So I go get the stone, and then I put it in boxes like this, and then I bring it to Etho, and then Etho lets me have frog lights. Does that make sense? This is barter. I know that's not very common in a lot of countries these days, but Anyway, Gypsy Pinball said we just had a tournament qualifying with 13 hours of pinball. That's awesome. Pat the Weirdo. Yeah, last weekend, I was actually just out in Paris, Tennessee for the Pin Ranch tournament, which is held... this one guy has this huge ranch full of Clydesdale horses, but he's also got a barn with a ton of pinball machines. Probably 60 to 80 pinball machines in this giant barn. And we had an 80-person tournament there for the main tournament. There was a strikes tournament too, and then there were a couple women's tournaments. And so there were 4 tournaments for the weekend. I was only eligible to compete in 2 of them, but it was a lot of fun. It's one of those things though where it's like, boy, when you get into those long tournaments, like it really is kind of an endurance thing. My daughter actually won the last, or she didn't win. She got 3rd place. Okay, sorry, shouldn't use the word won to say got 3rd place, but my daughter got way further than I was expecting at the age of 11 in the final tournament of the weekend because everybody else was so wiped out. But as a kid, she generally gets a lot of sleep and is well rested, and also hadn't been drinking, and so she managed to get 3rd place in a 17-person women's tournament that night. Won a Nashville pinball hoodie worth $35, and she tied for 13th in the main tournament with 80 people. Got a cash prize of $64. So she was just like, okay, wow, I cleared $100 in prizes this weekend. And meanwhile, I'm over there, and I'm, like, so exhausted from the drive and stuff. I'm finishing the bottom third of the main tournament, and I'm like, oh, man, I'm so tired. Why do we even bother coming to this if I wasn't going to play well? But then she does so well. I'm like, okay, that was why. But yeah. So, yeah, I'm sure you guys are exhausted after your 13-hour tournament qualifiers. I guess you guys are you doing 2-day tournament finals tomorrow? Going after that big TGP? We might have lost the Pinball Raiders already. I know this is a weird thing for a pinball stream to raid. I make very niche stuff. I just happen to like pinball, and so sometimes pinball people raid me. But, yeah, thank you again, Yipsy Pinball, for the raid. And I'm sure everybody, if it is a 2-day tournament, everybody who is competing in that is like, no, we're going to bed now. We got a whole day tomorrow. So, anyway, yeah, we are reading Moby Dick. We just finished Chapter 62. They're doing finals tomorrow, says Joe Soap. Awesome. Yeah, we just finished Chapter 62. Chapter 63 is the last one we're about to read tonight. Also, other things about the stream. This is a viewer-supported stream. The camera gets bigger when people tip. We are currently $15 away from the next Face Camera expansion milestone, so if anybody wants to show any remaining raiders who haven't fallen asleep yet how that works, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Hey, good evening, Emperor Vorthen. I'm asking this without actually knowing how the game went. I also don't know which team was your team. I'm assuming Bama was your team. But how was the Bama game? And did you have fun? Like, I'm really hoping that as I'm asking this wasn't one of those things where it's like, Bama is my team, and we were shut out 80 points to 0, Joe. You're a jerk. Thank you for asking. But yeah, I hope you had a great time hanging out on your birthday at the Bama game. I think you mentioned yesterday you were heading over there today. You're still at the game. It's not over yet. You just need to get your mind off the stress. Oh, okay. I mean, feel free to go back to watching your game. Appreciate you popping in. But, yeah, good luck to everybody there. Do you guys have a box? How can you even hear me? Do you have headphones in? I was not expecting you to be watching the stream or joining the stream from the Bama game. I don't even know how that would work logistically. I'm surprised the internet's good enough. I guess Stadium internet keeps getting better on account of all the G's they're adding now. I don't think... Yeah, I need to learn more about how many G's it takes to go unconscious so I can make better humor about confusing gravity for pilots and astronauts to generations of cell phone towers. I don't know exactly what that hints at, Vorthen, but cool. I'm assuming that's a good thing. I'm assuming that's like the nickname of some famous musician or athlete that I don't know. Wait, really? Wow, that's wild. Huh. Well, I wouldn't have had that on my bingo card for people showing up in my stream tonight. Huh. Well, I'm going to avoid saying anything in particular, because I don't want to be accused of inciting political violence. Wow. Okay, chapter 63 of Moby Dick. Let's go. This one is entitled The Crotch. So, yeah, we started off this book with a chapter that introduced the original concept of the fan fiction meme of, oh wait, there's only one bed in the hotel room. And now we have an entire chapter entitled The Crotch. Once again, Herman Melville ahead of the curve on all sorts of internet communication trends. So let's go ahead and see what is going on in chapter 63 of Moby Dick or the Whale by Herman Melville. What crotch-related trouble has your boy Ishmael gotten himself into? Out of the trunk, the branches grow. Out of them, the twigs. So, in productive subjects grow the chapters. The crotch alluded to on a previous page deserves independent mention. It is a notched stick of a peculiar form, some 2 feet in length, which is perpendicularly inserted into the starboard gunwale near the bow, for the purpose of furnishing a rest for the wooden extremity of the harpoon, whose other naked barbed end slopingly projects from the prow. Thereby the weapon is instantly at hand to the hurler, who snatches it up readily from its rest as a backwoodsman swings his rifle from the wall. It is customary to have 2 harpoons reposing in the crotch, respectively called the first and second irons. But these 2 harpoons, each by its own cord, are both connected with the line. The object being this, to dart them both, if possible, one instantly after the other, at the same whale, so that if in the coming drag one should draw out, the other may still retain a hold. It is a doubling of the chances. But it very often happens that owing to the instantaneous, violent, convulsive runnings of the whale upon receiving the first iron, it becomes impossible for the harpooner, however lightning-like in his movements, to pitch the second iron into him. Nevertheless, the second iron is already connected to the line, and the line is running. Hence, that weapon must, at all events, be anticipatingly tossed out of the boat somehow and somewhere, else the most terrible jeopardy would befall all hands. Tumbled into the water, it accordingly is, in such cases, the spare coils of box line, mentioned in the preceding chapter, making this feat, in most instances, prudently practicable. But this critical act is not always unattended with the saddest and most fatal casualties. Furthermore, you must know that when the second iron is thrown overboard, it thenceforth becomes a dangling, sharp-edged terror, skittishly curvetting around both boat and whale, entangling the lines or cutting them, and making a prodigious sensation in all directions. Nor in general, is it possible to secure it again until the whale is fully captured and a corpse? Consider now how it must be in the case of 4 boats, all engaging one unusually strong and active whale. And knowing whale. When owing to those qualities in him, as well as to the 1,000 concurring accidents of such an audacious enterprise, 8 or 10 loose second irons may be simultaneously dangling about him. For, of course, each boat is supplied with several harpoons to bend on to the line, should the first one be ineffectually darted without recovery. All these particulars are faithfully narrated here, as they will not fail to elucidate several most important, however intricate passages in scenes hereafter to be painted. And that concludes chapter 63 of Moby Dick, or The Whale, by Herman Melville. Yeah, this is a pretty detailed book. A lot of people say, oh, if you're going to read Moby Dick, just get the abridged one, because like 90% of it is nonsense. You don't care. The thing is, Moby Dick is interesting as literature because it basically is the closest thing to science fiction that is not science fiction. Herman Melville did not set out to invent a guy showing up to you at a party with his cell phone out, flipping through Wikipedia, looking up stuff that he can't remember about a story about a time he went on a boat. But this whole book is like talking to someone who is flipping through Wikipedia, trying to remember details of something that happened to them. And it's wild. It is a bizarre literary experience. There are also chapters that forecast the existence not only of Wikipedia and cell phones, but also the idea of internet forums. There is a chapter where Ishmael spends, like, a long time, like, way too long, literally just talking about a ranking system that he's created to describe how he thinks whales should be ranked. Like, this is like somebody basically being like, okay guys, here's my tier list for Formula 1 drivers, right? And everybody's like, I mean, I feel like you don't really need to rank Formula 1 drivers. Doesn't, the Formula 1 system already do that? Like, don't they get points towards a cup and that determines a... It's like, no. We're gonna talk about the qualities that make them who they are. It's that sort of thing, right? Like, Moby Dick is wild. There's several chapters where he just complains about different authors who wrote about whales and talks about why they suck in different ways, and is like, oh, this guy got this right, but everything else is garbage. And it's just like, if the internet existed, Herman Melville would have been the Alexander Hamilton of Reddit. Like, why do you write like you're running out of time? You're running out of time. It's just a bizarre and wild book that I think holds up an interesting mirror to current trends in writing, and that's why I've selected it to read on my stream. Once again, if you're here because you like pinball, I like pinball too. This is just something weird I do once a week, where we read old public domain books and do large-scale projects in Minecraft. We read all of Dracula last year, and that was amazing. And now we're doing this. So, yeah. People are like, you gonna do Frankenstein next? And I'm like, no. No, gotta keep it weird. Gotta be all over the place. Okay. So yeah, we're slowly carving out this corridor here with the long-term aim of actually, like, having more of the building visible from across there. But it's happening slowly. And we are, oh wow, we are only 5 minutes away from the 2-hour mark on this stream. So 5 chapters was the right amount. So thank you everybody for joining us. We've got 5 minutes left in the stream, and so let's go ahead and post final call for tips. If some weirdo reading Moby Dick is your idea of a good time, and you want to enable me, feel free. Tips are welcome. PayPal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. We are currently $15 away by my count from our next face camera expansion milestone. So, yeah, here we go. We are gathering blocks. Dun 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 dun. Bum bum ba da bum bum bum. Bum 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 ba da bum bum bum. So, I don't know if anybody else was watching the UK Open earlier, but, yeah, that was pretty good. I really would love to get out to Croydon to play over there. It was a little bit... We were not staying in that part of London at all last time I visited, so we didn't get down there for their weekly tournament. Because not every tournament is the UK Open, but, you know, places that tend to host large tournaments like that often have, like, a weekly or a monthly event. And I asked my then fiance, like, oh, could we go? But, like, we were on the opposite side of London, and it would have been a nightmare to get over there. So I was like, okay, well, next time we go to London, let's stay in that part of London. Maybe not in Croydon itself, because Croydon's not necessarily a very tourist-friendly part of London, but let's stay toward Croydon so that we can hopefully get down there next time. Because the only international tournament I've been to was one of the ones outside of Toronto in Mississauga. It was just a random weekly. I was flying out Saturday morning from Toronto Airport, and like a mile away from Toronto Airport in Mississauga, there's a tournament on Friday nights. So it was like, for the last night I'm in Toronto, I'm going to stay in the airport hotel. And it was pretty fun. I actually got to meet Jeff Teolis, who does some pinball podcasts. He's pretty cool. Play against a lot of very friendly people. It's always nice to visit another town and get to play pinball with people. Very chill. But yeah, not that Croydon is just another town. Toronto is fine. I don't feel bad calling Toronto another town, or Mississauga. But yeah, maybe London is slightly larger than another town. Okay, everybody's pretty quiet tonight. Hopefully the gore in chapter 61 of Moby Dick didn't drive everybody off, but, because, yeah, it's pretty brutal, I'll give you that. Anybody have any thoughts about the readings tonight? Scott Hart corrects my pronunciation and says Mississauga. Mississauga. Nola says, of course Ishmael has a whole new redesign for how the ship should work. This is me in real life ranting and ending it with, but nobody freaking asked me. Yeah. Summer Woes says, just lurking and playing Core Keeper. I like the readings, good energy and entertaining. Raw Dog says, keep them coming. Yep. Every Saturday night we do these readings. So, yeah, stop on by next Saturday if you want more Moby Dick. Mike Shaw says, just first time catching your reading streams. Love the vibes. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Here we go. Chloe the Great and Powerful tips 14 and says, yay for Moby Dick. Thank you, Chloe the Great and Powerful. That puts us $1 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Appreciate it. Aliana H says, how's the digging going? Productively. We're getting a lot done. Like, it's hard to tell, but, like, you guys got to keep in mind that this was a whole mountain before, and now it's what's left of one. And pretty soon it won't even be that. We're making a lot of progress. Yeah, I don't like to stretch out the Moby Dick VODs, so I'm not going to keep the stream going for much longer. We are giving the tips a minute to roll in. Thank you to Lost Cult Music for tipping 3 and getting us 2 past our next face camera expansion milestone. Y'all have seen that money go straight to my head with each face camera expansion milestone we hit. But now, like Jacob Marley, these chains I forged in life are here to remind me that humanity was my business and begin pulling me down to the deep below. Enter the Jost. Ba 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 ba. Lowering the Joe Pasty now to 90%. At this point, each additional face camera expansion milestone will be accompanied by a corresponding drop in Joe Pasty. We are now 18 away from that next face camera expansion milestone. Thank you again to Lost Cult Music and Chloe the Great and Powerful. Let's see, we got a comment here from Raystar in the YouTube chat who says, just got here for the last hour or so. I look forward to these all week. I like to put together while listening. I feel like you're missing a direct object there. What are you putting together? Like paper airplanes, models of ships? Could be anything. Could be anything. I don't know. I don't know. But either way, thank you for the kind words, Raystar. Nola adds, the thing about Moby Dick is when somebody talks like this in real life, I would like an abridged edition, but there ain't none. Fair enough, Nola. Fair enough. Okay. Oh, okay. You're putting together tabletop role-playing game miniatures. Awesome. Yeah, this is the sort of thing that, like, because this isn't too immersive on screen, you don't really have to watch this. You can just listen to this while you're doing other stuff. I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm reading a book while I'm doing this. That's my level of involvement with what's going on the game. I'm, like, looking in another window. Yep. So when we come back next week, we'll be starting off with Chapter 64. Stubb's Supper. And we'll find out what Stubb eats for supper on the night he kills a whale. Let's see, Chapter 65, The Whale as a Dish. And Chapter 66 is going to be The Shark Massacre. So, should be a good series of chapters next week. I think I'm going to be here next week. Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm here next week. Some Saturdays I have other stuff I have to do, but most Saturdays I'm here for HermitCraft. Okay. So, let's go. Let's see. Anybody else have any final thoughts before we wrap up the stream? Nola says 64, a full stack of chapters. There you go. Thank you, Nola. I like it. I don't know why I'm cutting into this one part here, but this is just... It just called to me. Cut this way. Oh, hey, it's actually hitting this ravine. I've spent so much time looking at this. I think I subconsciously knew this was here, was just trying to connect the gaps. Oh. Wait, that's really close to... Of course it is. The human mind. Abby M says, I kept tuning out, but I did catch a bit of word choice where he describes sailors being thrown to the foam, and I picture the waves coming up to eye level. Oh yeah, these whale ships, like the whale boats that they send out are not huge. The waves out at sea like that can be huge and very rough. So yeah, that's not unheard of. In a previous chapter, they actually did get capsized in a squall or swamped in a squall. And they were lucky that the ship found them the next day. But yeah, they were using their oars as life preservers, because the oars float, right? So, yeah. That's fun, getting thrown into the freezing sea, and then spending the night draped over your oar. Ugh. Yeah, one of the recurring themes is that being a whaleman is a tough life. So the guys who do this are super tough. But yeah, they're constantly dealing with the elements and mismanagement. Mismanagement is a major recurring theme in Moby Dick because Ahab is completely lost it. I was gonna say, I wonder if you could make, like, an office type... You could almost make a show kind of like The Office, where Ishmael is constantly narrating to the camera, like Malcolm in the Middle. Yeah, you could do something like Ishmael in the Middle. And Ahab is kind of like the Steve Carell terrible boss. There's something here. I think at a certain point you end up with Pirate What We Do in the Shadows. I forget what that's called. This wouldn't exactly be that. Our Flag Means Death, I think. But yeah, you could have a Malcolm in the Middle-esque, Office-esque, sitcom, workplace comedy, documentary style. I think is what it's called. But yeah, anyway, I was going to say, I'm probably going to do another hour or two of this stuff, either late tonight or early tomorrow morning, so I can stay on pace. I have a lot of stone I need to deliver for this big project to keep it on tempo. But I don't want the VOD for this to run too long, because I know the people watching the Moby Dick VODs want to jump right to the next chapter. And if they see, like, there's another hour on this, they're going to go, maybe Joe got bored and read chapter 64 now. Which I am not going to do. So, okay. I am going to clear out some of that, though. Glenscraft says, can you give me advice? I'm a new streamer. Yeah. I was going to say, I try to have fun and learn from everything I do. And that way, even if I fail at one thing, I generally fail at the other. I would say try to find good ways to support yourself and your family financially that give you extra creative energy to invest in your stream. Kind of the Jonathan Larson Diner model of creative self-funding is going to be what I recommend to most people. I would say don't become a Twitch partner or affiliate because it's a bad contract. Hold out until they give you a bespoke contract. If you're not famous enough to get offered a bespoke contract, tell them you'll come back when you are. Generally, when I started streaming back in 2008, most of the people who watched my show were people I knew in real life but didn't get to see very often. Try to go to as many conventions and stuff as you can, meet cool people who will hopefully want to come watch your stream and hang out with you. Okay, yeah, so good luck with all of that. We need to swap out this pick, and I need to call it a stream. So yeah, let's see who we can raid. Since we got raided by a pinball stream, let's see if we can find another pinball stream. Is the UK Open started back up again this morning? Categories, pinball.
Okay, so the skill shot is different every time you step up.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
mute that real quick. What are they playing there? Sinbad. Okay. Well, why don't we go ahead and raid Dusty Dave Rocks. They're doing a Charity Classics event, and apparently it's the finals. Jeremy Matthews, Tony Botti, Kiersey Midget, and Corey Hobe are playing, so we're going to slash raid them. When you get over there, our raid message is, howdy y'all, Joe Hills raid here. And until next time, y'all, this is Joe Hills from Nashville, Tennessee. Keep adventuring.